We have a very nerdy video for you today. I'm going to be looking at 11 different popular Bible typesettings, and I'm going to be rating each one from 1 to 10. So I hope you like this, and let's get right into it. You probably recognize this one. This is the Cambridge Clarion Single Column Reference Bible. I just want to be upfront with you. I'm not super big on single columns. I know that's like the trend right now. Everyone is like single column is the way to go. And I just personally, for different reasons that I'll get into in another video, I personally prefer double column Bibles a lot more. So if I sound like I'm a little bit mean to your favorite single column type settings, don't take offense. I prefer double column. But this one is pretty good. I do like the Cambridge Clarion. This is one that I could see myself using. The font is very nice. It's the lexicon font. It's very bold. The spacing is very good. The Arabic numerals are normal, so that's fine. Good paragraph breaks. I think that there's poetic sections that are, done in poetic setting. All good. I really like that the references are right here along the column, and that is good because it gets the references right where they're most useful. So verse 2 right here has a couple of references that are notated as verse 2, and all you have to do is be like, oh, what's that from? And you can look right over here and see, oh, it's from Isaiah 44, whatever. It makes the references very useful. I'm someone who likes references not only being in my Bible, but also being in a place that makes them very, very useful. The only critique I really have of the Clarion is what side they put the references on. I know people have mixed opinions on this. I personally think the references go better on this side because it gets that text away from the gutter, and the Clarion is kind of a chunky, fat Bible. And so in those middle parts of the Bible, Psalm, Isaiah, the text is going to kind of dip down into that column, and that kind of bugs me. So I think that when there is a single column Bible, it really works well when they put the references right there in that column, in that inner column, to get that text away from the gutter, and I just think that makes it way better. But that's my only gripe. It's a minor one. I'm going to give this Bible an 8 out of 10, which is very good for a single column Bible. Okay, next we have the very famous Pit Minion typesetting. I have a lot of experience with this because I own a Pit Minion, and I also own its bigger brother, the Aquila. Now there's also the Diadem. So this is going to be for each one of those. It's just called the Pit Minion typesetting, but of course it works for the Diadem and the Aquila as well. And honestly, while it doesn't look like much, it looks maybe a little crowded to the eye when you just look at it. It is very well organized. It does have that nice lexicon font that both Cambridge and Schuyler use. And I love the center column references personally, because again, it gets those references up to a more useful place. You could see the reference on Genesis 1:1 is right here. And of course, it's not perfect in this Bible because they kind of cram them up toward the top or toward the bottom, but it's much better than just shoving them somewhere down to the bottom or down to some one side of the page or the other. So I really like that. I also love the paragraph layout for a double column. I think that's perfect. Double column, center column reference, paragraph Bibles are my favorite. Love the lexicon font. It doesn't look like it, but the letting space or the space between the lines is really well done. There's great poetic breaks. There's great paragraph breaks. There's section headings. It's got pretty much everything. I'm really a big fan of the Pit Minion layout. And again, maybe visually it's not all there, but it works. You open up the Bible and it works. So I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. Next, you have the very famous, very classic Cambridge Concord. And I actually have a Cambridge Cameo that I got recently. I have a video on this Bible that you can go check out. And it has a very similar layout, right? It has your verse by verse double column, center column reference. The reason I have this one instead of the Concord is because I just like the size a little bit more. I love the size of the Concord. The Concord's a great size. But I also like that this has an even older typesetting. I just like classic. You guys know I like classic looking stuff. It's just my aesthetic. It's my taste. So of course I'm going to really like the Concord as well. But the Concord is actually like kind of better in a way because the reference suite, it's called the bold reference system, which is really nice. Instead of just like putting the references somewhere, it puts it right next to the verse. And look at verse 16 right here. See how that reference is perfectly aligned with verse 16. Just beautiful. And they have all these references right here. That is beautiful. That does two things. It gets the references right next to where you're reading, which is great. And it cleans up the text because you don't have all these tiny little letters showing you where the references are. I love the Concord. I definitely want to get a Concord at some point. I don't have one right now, but these are probably the best King James Bible. Many people would agree with me on that. Of course, this one's beautiful. I couldn't find a PDF version, but look at that blue silver gilting. I love that. Very beautiful. I'm going to give the Concord a 9.5 out of 10. It is verse by verse, so if you don't like verse by verse, you're not going to like this. I don't mind verse by verse. I've literally never read a Bible and thought to myself, man, this is like, the fact that this is verse by verse is really like messing me up. I personally just don't have that problem. Maybe other people do. In fact, I know other people do, but I don't mind verse by verse at all. Okay, we have another Cambridge, the last Cambridge on this list. This is the Topaz, and it is verse by verse. It's double column. It has very beautiful font. It has red accented verse numbers and chapter numbers, which is very nice. I like a lot of what's going on here. The big wart for me with this Bible is where these references are. I'm not a fan of that at all. It feels like they just shoved the references somewhere, and they shoved them in a really obvious place. It's like it would have been a little bit better if they just put them in the gutter, because some Bibles do that. You know, Schuyler puts them on the bottom, which I think is best if you're going to just shove the references somewhere. This, they just put them right there on the side, and I just think that's ugly. So I don't think it's a big deal. It is what it is. A lot of people really like this typesetting because of preaching. It's a very nice preaching Bible. This is a large Bible with a large print, and of course it's verse by verse, which is great for preaching. I just don't like where these references are. So I think it's a great typesetting. Other than that, I'm going to give it a 7.5 because I like everything about it except for these references. I just think that's so weird and awkward looking. Here is one of my favorite typesettings of all time, the Trinitarian Bible Society Westminster Reference Bible. I have a whole video on this Bible. You can go check it out. It's one of my recent videos, and it's beautiful. I just like looking at it. Now, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You guys know, like I said, I'm very traditional. I like traditional looking things. This reminds me of the 1611 facsimile of the King James. It reminds me of the Geneva Bible 1560 facsimile, where they had the marginalia right here on these outer columns, which is perfect. So it's verse by verse double column, which I love. The font is very nice. It's bold enough. It's not too bold. I think some fonts are too bold. This is not too bold. The references are right next to the verse that they're referencing, which is absolutely beautiful. The one problem I do have is that they still have the letters. And I feel like if you're going to have the references right here next to the verse that they're referencing, you don't need the letters because you're kind of like crowding the text with all these tiny letters. And you could just put the verse number right there, but no, you had to go ahead and put this letter right here. That's my only complaint. Other than that, it's perfect. I like that the chapter summaries come out right here aligned with the references instead of being all crammed right here. I think it kind of breaks up the page really nicely when you're reading it. In the Psalms, they have 2-line drop cap, kind of like the Concord right here. See that 2-line drop cap? That's kind of what they do with the Westminster in the Psalms. But in the other books, they have Arabic numerals, which is fine too. I just really like this layout. I don't think it's ugly at all. I think it's very beautiful. I think it's very well laid out. Very nice use of space. Just my favorite. I'm going to give this one a 9.5 out of 10. I know it's going to be controversial. Some people hate this layout. I love it. I think it's beautiful. All right, and right here we have a bona fide classic. And who doesn't know someone who uses a Crossway ESV thin line? And I certainly carried one around for years. These things are not line match, which is going to be some points against it, but it is a beautiful double column paragraph Bible, text Bible with no references. All it has is some footnotes at the bottom. It's very well done. Lexicon font, which Crossway made very popular. Arabic numeral, section headings, poetic breaks. It's perfect. You can't really go wrong with this. Really good spacing, really good organization and layout. Just a classic. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because I think that being line matched would make it a lot better. But other than that, it's great. And you can get these. You can get these for $15, or you can go and get one for $350. So it's kind of like one of those things where you can get the same layout Bible in a bunch of different price options, which is a great thing. And I wanted to show you this because this is an example of a single column Bible that I really could see myself using. And this is the newer Crossway Veritas. And I think they hit it out of the park. I still don't love the single column, but a lot of people do like it. And I think they did this really well. This is just a text Bible. There's no references, but look at how much space they have on either side. I happen to know for a fact that this amount of space right here does get that text away from the gutter enough on a thick Bible to put that right in front of your face and not have it be dipping down into the gutter, which really bugs me. And then right here, I don't know how good the paper is, but you do have some perhaps space to write some notes if you pick the right color, Pigma Micron or something. So I really like this layout. You also have red accented chapter numbers and pretty nice bold verse numbers. They have really nice paragraph breaks, really nice poetic breaks. This is a beautifully done Bible. It's simple. It's almost too simple. It's almost like cheating, right? Just a nice, straightforward layout. I don't know why other single column Bibles can't just get this right, but Crossway has done a very nice job. And Crossway has so many beautiful typesettings. I think they're one of the best in the business as far as typesettings go. And here is the Quintel, which is an expensive Bible. You're not getting a Quintel for cheap at all. But I will say Thomas Nelson, I did a video on the Thomas Nelson Revised Standard Version Sovereign Collection, which is a very similar kind of, dare I say, ripoff of this. But it's very nice, same thing. But the Schuyler Quintel is just gorgeous. Visually, I think it's the best. Practically, I think that the Pip Minion is the best. But obviously, I mean, just look at the difference. Ready? That's so much nicer looking. Using, this is better. But looking, this is better. The reason why is because they shoved the references down here at the bottom, which a lot of people don't mind. To me, that detracts from it a little bit, but I still definitely can use the Quintel. I have no problem using the Quintel. Very clean, beautiful. This is the Milo font, which is a really nice, modern, but dignified and classic looking font. I love how now they use these ornamental drop caps. They use red accented page numbers, chapter numbers, and reference headers. I don't know. I can't really tell. Do they have red verse numbers? No, they're black. But still very, very nice. I think this is one of the best out there. Visually, I think it's absolutely the best. I think this is the best typesetting visually on the market. So I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10 because it's just gorgeous looking and also very nice to read. So very good job there. And here is the Traverse. I wanted to put this in here because I just don't get this trend with we can't have anything in the text, so we're going to have the verse numbers just shoved out here into the inner column. Not a fan of that. Okay. This is also a sea of text, which is one of the reasons I'm not a fan of single column Bibles. Now you could say, Tyler, you read other books, right? You read books that are a sea of text. Yeah, but the Bible's not like a novel. The Bible is not Ernest Hemingway, okay? The Bible's the Bible. It's already kind of hard to read. And I think the Bible is a lot easier to read in a double column format. Some of these lines are 15 or 16 words long. And that's just a long way for your eye to track across the page. So I personally would rather have double column Bible. I really don't like when they don't have the verses in the text with a single column Bible that's paragraph, because now I don't know where the verse ends, and that's a problem for me. I've never read a Bible and thought to myself, oh my gosh, this verse number in the middle of the text is really messing me up. I don't know why. I think people just overthink things, and so we get things like this. If you like this, then fine, but I don't get it. Of course, everything else is nice. It's the same Milo font. You have the red accented chapter number and the ornamental drop cap. It's nice, but I'm just not a huge fan of the typesetting for those reasons. As far as like what rating I would give it, I give it a 7 because, some people do like it. It's well done, nice spacing, nice font, everything is well organized, but I just really, really don't like having the chapter numbers in a paragraph Bible not be in the text. I think that's wrong. And here you go. Here's an example of them doing it right. This is verse by verse, which I wish it was paragraph. I think in the single column, paragraph makes sense, although I think in single column it is a little bit easier to read verse by verse. But, whatever. What I like about this, and this is the Thomas Nelson, what is this called? Thomas Nelson single column verse by verse reference Bible. Very nice and well done. I love that they put these references in the inner margin, because look what it does. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're getting that text, the biblical text, the important thing, away from that gutter and right onto the flat part of the page. Makes a lot of sense. The only thing I would change about this is I would make these references actually match up with the verses. I think that works a lot better, especially with this being verse by verse. Why wouldn't you match up the references with the rest of the text? But that being said, I'm going to give this a 7.8 because this is solid. I don't think it's the best, but it's solid, and I'm a really big fan of putting the references in the inner gutter of the page, because I think that's where they belong. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video about Bible typesettings. Anyway, this was fun. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.